Tenacious defensive performance from both teams. Huge free throws here for Paul George. And that's critical because now if he hits the second one, Suns only needed 2 to tie. Missed another, and they call timeout. Paul George misses a pair, and the Suns with a chance to win it with 7.
Yeah, you know, the real reason the Clippers are actually having issues in this series, the real reason why the Clippers lost last night is because of the play of DeAndre Ayton. And you may look at it a little bit differently, but when you look at it from the standpoint of, I said in a couple videos ago, DeAndre Ayton is a different big man than the other two teams they faced. Kristaps Porzingis, Boban, whoever, Rudy Gobert, they're not DeAndre Ayton. To me, DeAndre Ayton is better than all those other big men. DeAndre Ayton moves his feet better. DeAndre Ayton plays better on defense. And he's more active offensively because when you can pass the ball into DeAndre Ayton and he can hit a 15 to 17 foot jump shot and he gets most of the rebounds and he gets a lot of offensive rebounds, second chance points, second chance buckets, opportunities. And the fact that he is a really, really good shot blocker, it really, really is making the Clippers second guess themselves a lot. And the only thing that's been keeping the Clippers in these games against the Phoenix Suns has been their 3-point range. The fact that the Clippers been shooting, knocking down some threes, some big threes, or a lot of 3-pointers in these first 2 games, that's the only reason why they were actually in these games. Because if it wasn't for their 3-pointer, they would have got blown out both times. And the problem is, like I said, if they don't neutralize DeAndre Ayton DeAndre Ayton can't go 24 and 14. DeAndre Ayton has to have like 18 and 12, 18 and 14. He can't go 24 and 14. That is a huge problem. That is their 7-foot big man who doesn't shoot threes, who doesn't stretch the floor out to the perimeter of the 3-point line. It's not like he's a Kevin Durant or something like that where he can stretch the floor, or even like he's not a Serge Ibaka when it comes to stretching the floor or shooting threes, because that's not what he does. I mean, when you think about it, the Suns' 3 best players shoot from the mid-range. They're not even good 3-point shooters. Chris Paul's not the best 3-point shooter, but he can knock down some threes. Devin Booker's not the best 3-point shooter. I think he's shooting in the late 30% range, like 37%, for the playoffs or for the season that just passed. But he's not a great 3-point shooter. He's mainly mid-range. And so is DeAndre Ayton. He can, 15 to 16 feet out, he can knock down that jumper. And he can knock it down pretty consistently. Another thing that might be that's a problem for the Clippers if it continues is Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne, no way is he looked at as like a Chris Paul, but for him to only have, I think, 1 turnover in these first 2 games, that is really taking care of the ball at a high level. And that's exactly what Chris Paul would do. Take care of the ball at a high level and don't put his team in risk of losing games that they should win. Cameron Payne has played flawless. He's played fearless. He's played to a high level that a lot of people didn't see coming. But, you can neutralize a Cameron Payne. Maybe you can neutralize him some. Maybe his jumper, his 3 isn't falling when they go to LA or something like that. But I'm not sure how they really neutralize DeAndre Ayton. Because like I said, I'm not saying DeAndre Ayton is going to get 24 and 14 going forward. But what I'm saying is this: if he does get another 20-10 game, it's really going to be tough for the Clippers, because you're getting 20 and 10 from a guy who's 7 feet, who just lives around the paint. Most big men in the league now stretch the floor, like to be able to step out to the 3-point line, and everything like that. But the fact that he doesn't do that and he still can get you 20 and 10 a game most nights is really incredible. And I'm going to say this now, if you look at this series, they're going to have to find a way to slow him down some, because if he keeps getting the 20 plus points with his dominance as a defensive player, because really, if you look at it, when the Clippers drive to the basket, they drive to the basket knowing that he's there, and you could see a form of fear when he's in there. Because, how he moves his feet is a lot better than Rudy Gobert. And I personally think he's a way better player than Rudy Gobert. He's going to be a way better player than Rudy Gobert has ever been or ever will be. Because to me, DeAndre Ayton moves his feet real well as a big man, and he can recover even if you get around him on defense to still alter your shot or block it. And the fact that he has a 15 to 17 foot jumper that he can hit pretty consistently, it makes it really tough for Ty Lue to really make an adjustment to that, because you don't want to have somebody undersized on him like Boogie, because Boogie is maybe not tall enough, doesn't have the length. So you put Zubac on him, and Zubac plays good, he plays hard, but like I said, Zubac isn't really strong enough for DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton is just much stronger and a little bit more physical than Zubac. So it's like he's probably the biggest problem that the Clippers have seen so far in this series that's kind of went unnoticed a little bit. I know he had the Valley oop last night, which is, big, for Monty Williams to come up with that play, out of nowhere. And it actually worked out, But at the same time, the team has really, the Clippers are going to really have to figure out a way to make an adjustment that fits that'll fit this series, because what they have right now just isn't good enough, because the games are coming down to 1 point, 6 points, losses in the end, the score doesn't always necessarily tell you exactly how the game really was. And when you look at this game, for Devin Booker to shoot as poor as he did, for the Suns not to have hit the 3-pointer the way they usually do, and for I think Jay Crowder to not even hit a field goal, not even make a field goal in this game, this last game, that is a game the Clippers should win. That is a game the Clippers should win. Because really that was given to you on a silver platter. You just didn't take it. Now, I will say this. This was the game also that Paul George could not go 10 for 26, I believe. This is the game where he did not need to struggle. I think he went 1 for 7 or 1 for 8 from threes. And we all know what happened at the end. He did have a decent fourth quarter up until those free throws. He had like 9 points in the fourth quarter. But a lot of people won't even mention that Luke Kennard actually had 10 points in the fourth quarter, So, he kept them afloat. It just seemed like the Phoenix Suns couldn't get away from the Clippers at no point in time in this game. Neither game, really, So it's like that gives the Clippers some encouragement. But I'm going to say this. If the games keep coming down to the wire close like this, remember, the Clippers have been the team in the league. When the game is close in the last 2 to 3 minutes of the game, they usually always lose those games. Those are games that the Clippers always struggled in. And my point is this: when you have somebody like DeAndre Ayton, who gets extra rebounds and who is a threat in the paint as far as anybody driving in, trying to get an easy bucket, it makes the Clippers have to shoot all those threes. And the 3-pointers that they've been hitting is good. But what if they run into a wall one of these games where that 3-pointer is not falling? Because there could be one game where the 3-pointer is not falling for them. Because these last couple games, it's been the 3-pointer that has kept them in these games, that have kept them afloat, that has got them the lead in these games with the possibility to win. But there are those times where the three-pointer is not going to fall. And if that's one of those times, what will the Clippers do then? And this is my point. The Clippers can find a way to win this series. They can, because they're a resilient group. They've been through a lot of adversity these first two rounds, but going into this third round with the Phoenix Suns, and they've been down 0-2 twice before. The only problem I said with that is the last two times they were down 0-2, they had their best player. And that's the difference in this series. I'm not sure if they can come back 0-2 without Kawhi Leonard, but I mean, I wouldn't rule it out because they have a lot of depth on the Clippers. They have a lot of talent on the Clippers. And if they play together and play hard and feed off the energy of the crowd, and Ty Lue makes the necessary adjustments that can put them in better position to, take just go through a stretch of the game where you have a 10-point lead. Just go through a stretch of the game where you have that type of, lead going into the game, or lead going into some of these quarters. And because every time, the first two games we looked at in this series, it just looks like the Clippers were never really in control at any point. It just looked like the Clippers had their little moment where they go on a little run and they give the Phoenix Suns a little scare, and then that's it. Phoenix just finds a way to execute their plays better, and it works out for Phoenix. It worked out the last two times, which is the reason why Phoenix is 2-0 in this series, because it's like the Clippers are more isolation, one-on-one basketball at times. And I think that's what hurts the Clippers in a series. That's what will hurt the Clippers in a series like this, because when you look at the Suns, they run plays. They run sets. They look like their plays are actually calculated. They play within their means. They don't play beyond their means. And that's exactly what the Clippers need to do. They need to play within their means. They need to play with a little bit more structure, because like I said, that three-pointer, you live by the three, you can die by the three. And anybody who knows basketball knows that's always been a high rule, or a rule that's been implemented in basketball for forever. You don't want to fall in love with it too much, because you got to find a way. You got to find other ways to be effective. The three keeps you in the game, but there's times where the three knocks you out of the game, because there's times in these first two games where the Clippers would go in a stretch where for 1 or 2 minutes they wouldn't score, but they would take 2 or 3 3-pointers back to back to back and miss all three. And then the Phoenix Suns capitalize and go up by 5 to 7 points. Now, 5 to 7 points doesn't seem like a lot of points, but it's a lot when you have a shot blocker like DeAndre Ayton in the paint. It's a lot when the other team runs better plays than what you do offensively. And it's a lot when you're playing against a team that has great perimeter defenders like the Phoenix Suns. So my point is this: the Clippers are going to have to find a way to go at DeAndre Ayton. They're going to have to find a way to get him in foul trouble. Get him out the game some, kind of like they did Rudy Gobert in Utah. You're going to have to find ways to just go at him and try to get him in foul trouble. Because with DeAndre Ayton in the game and playing the way he is, the Clippers won't really have a chance if they allow DeAndre Ayton just to keep doing what he's doing. You have to go at him, draw fouls, get him in foul trouble, make him sit a good length of time so you can implement your will in the game and build maybe a 10, 15, maybe double-digit lead possibly, and get your momentum going. Because that's the reason why the Clippers can't build a lead, because they're not being aggressive going to the paint enough. And I'm looking at Paul George. Yeah, Paul George has been playing pretty good for the most part, but these last couple games, if you really think about it, he hasn't been playing really the best. He's played good enough to win, but he hasn't been playing his best basketball. Like I said, the Game 6 in Utah, Terrence Mann won that Game 6. If it wasn't for Terrence Mann going off for 39, the Clippers don't win that game. They might possibly go into Game 7 and lose the series. The first game, against the Suns, Paul George did shoot pretty good, not bad. He had a good run in that third quarter where, he hit a couple threes back to back. But my point is, when you look at Paul George, it's mainly him just shooting jumpers. Shooting threes. It's not him being aggressive enough. And I need more aggression out of Paul George if the Clippers want to come back and try to win this series. Because if Paul George is going to settle for threes, well, that's good if he's hitting them. But it's bad if he's 1 for 8 like he was last night. Because I tell you, if he goes 3 for 8 from 3-pointers in last night's game, they win it. No doubt about it. The series is tied 1-1. Then he could have missed those couple free throws and it probably wouldn't even have mattered. But my point is, you have to get better gameplay from your star player. Now, we all know he's not the best player on the Clippers, but I expect more from Paul George. I expect more efficiency. I expect more aggressiveness and all the above. But this is the point that I also want to make too. One thing that allows Paul George to play really well, or that has allowed him to play well in these playoffs, was having his number one superstar, Kawhi Leonard. And I think that's what's affecting Paul George the most, because now the onus is on Paul George to, put up a lot of points and play some really good defense. And Paul George just doesn't seem to be able to do that. And I'm not saying Paul George won't bounce back next game, because I think he will. But my point is, this series right here, you need Paul George to lock somebody down defensively. You need Paul George to neutralize, something or somebody on the opposing team and score 30 plus points the rest of this series. That's the only way they're going to win. Not unless a miracle comes through and Kawhi Leonard walks in that door. That's probably about the only way. So, I mean, I'm being optimistic. The Clippers, they've been down 0-2 before. They still have a chance. They've done this before. They've been here. They know what it's like to be down 0-2. They know what it's like to look at each other in the locker room and be like, hey, this is a situation we've been in. We got them right where we want them. That's just how the Clippers got to look at it. We're in a situation that we're familiar with, and we've climbed our way out of it before, and we can do it again. But we have to do it collectively. And hey, man, I'm gonna need more. If Marcus Morris can play, I'm gonna need more from Marcus Morris. I mean, he's gonna have to be in the 20-point range the rest of these games in this series. He can't have less than 20 points. None of these games, the rest of the series, if he's going to play, if his knee isn't banged up too bad, because they need that third scorer. Reggie Jackson's going to give you 20. We can cement that now. Reggie Jackson is good enough to consistently give you 20 points per game. But they need that third scorer, because if they don't get that, it's over with in this series. So Paul George, it's got to be Paul George, it's got to be Reggie, and it's got to be one other guy. And that's just the way it's going to have to be for them to win this series. And it's going to have to be consistent. And like I said, I don't know what they're going to do if Chris Paul comes back, because once Chris Paul gets into a rhythm, it's really going to be tough to beat them. Because now, when you look at the Phoenix Suns in this game last night specifically, and the games going forward, the one thing you see that the Phoenix Suns struggle at times is taking bad shots. They don't take too many, but they have stretches where they take bad shots and, may have a turnover here and there, or something like that. But when Chris Paul is in there, they won't take those bad shots as much, because Chris Paul he's the anchor. He'll control everything and exactly how it's supposed to be ran. So the Clippers are going to have to be precise and concise on offense. They're going to have to be flawless on defense. And the communication on the floor is going to have to be flawless as well. Because, like I said, they have to find a way to secure more rebounds. You can't let DeAndre Ayton get second chance rebounds. And it's not even that. It's just the fact that if you look at the game, sometimes DeAndre Ayton is getting, like when the ball gets shot at the rim, DeAndre Ayton may not get the rebound, but he tips it back out to the free throw line or to the 3-point line at times, where it gives the Suns an opportunity to run at the ball and grab it and get a second chance opportunity. It's the little things like that DeAndre Ayton does that goes unnoticed. But that's why I said DeAndre Ayton is really their biggest problem. And they're going to have to find a way to get him in foul trouble and go at him and make him sit longer minutes so they can actually go through stretches where they can score more. where they can get easier buckets, because right now the Clippers are getting all their buckets are harder. They're getting all three. They're knocking down 3-pointers, whereas the Suns are getting 2-pointers. They're getting straight to the rim. DeAndre Ayton is getting alleys, you know what I'm saying, or valleys. They got me saying valley oops now. He's getting valley oops. You know what I'm saying? He had a big one earlier in last night's game and the game winner, basically. You know what I'm saying? Also, it's just, and then on top of that, Cameron Payne is getting to the rim at will. You know what I'm saying? As much as he wants. Nobody's quick enough to keep up with him. And this is what I'm saying. If they're getting more easier buckets in the paint and you're settling for threes, well, eventually one of those are going to come to an end. And usually it's always a 3-pointer that comes to an end for most teams. Because when you don't get hot from 3 and you're not knocking them threes down, what do you have then? And this is what I'm saying. The Clippers are going to have to change up their game plan. They're going to have to make adjustments, and they're going to have to make them fast, because this is not the Dallas Mavericks and this is not the Utah Jazz. I personally believe the Suns are better than both of those teams. And like I said, we hope that Kawhi Leonard comes back. We're being optimistic, but it's really looking slim now, more and more than it did before. So we can't sit there and rely on something that's not a guarantee or that doesn't seem to be promising. And the thing with the Clippers is you're down 0-2. You've been here before, but you haven't been here before against this team. You haven't been down 0-2 against this team before. And for you to be down 0-2 in 2 close games, one of them that you definitely should have won last night, possibly could have won the first one. You haven't even seen the Suns' best player yet. And that's really disturbing. You know, I don't know mentally. I guess mentally the Clippers are fine, as Ty Lue says. But at the same time, who knows? Last night's loss was a little bit more demoralizing than any other loss they had in the in the playoffs. And, you know, it showed in their body language. And hopefully, like I said, the home crowd and everything in LA will give them the juice and the energy they need to, you know, win a game. Just win one game and get the feeling in you and kind of get some confidence. Just get that one game, because that one game can help you propel you to other wins going forward. But it's going to be a battle in LA for game 3. I expect it to be, you know, same intensity, same defensive, same, you know, everything. I expect the game to be around the same amount of points, actually. I expect I'm actually going with, you know, it being a really close game again. You know, maybe a 1 to 4 point game, you know, 5-point game, somewhere in there. It's going to be close and it's going to be tough. And I expect better play from the Clippers, but I also expect better play from the Suns, because I'm not sure if Devin Booker is going to shoot that poorly again. But we'll see. I like the matchup with Devin Booker and Pat Bev. Pat Bev played really inspiring basketball. That was really encouraging for the Clippers to see. And that's something that they can actually exploit going forward in this series. Because if Pat Bev is going to play like that, you got to play him more. Hopefully Pat Bev has the energy, because he plays so much hard. He plays so much harder than everybody else on defense. He expends so much energy on defense. You know, you wonder where his offense is going to come from. But he did knock down a couple big threes, I think, last night's game. So you got to give him credit there also. But we'll see how the game goes going forward. And we'll see exactly what adjustments have been made. And we'll see if the Clippers can get their first win in this series, because that's what it's all about now. You lose game 3, well, it's over with. I mean, you know. Nobody's came back from a 3-0 lead. Not saying it's impossible, but it's damn close. So, hey, that's my take on the situation. And let me know what you think, you know, in the comment section. And we'll talk about it. And Cali out.